France, a global economic powerhouse with an effective social welfare system, hosts nearly 7 million immigrants, comprising 10.3% of its total population according to the 2021 census. In 2010, 27.3% of the 802,000 infants born in metropolitan France had at least one foreign-born parent, with 23.9% having a parent born outside Europe. However, France contends with issues surrounding 200,000 to 300,000 illegal immigrants and integration challenges. The recent social turmoil following the death of Nahel Merzouk on June 27, 2023, resulted in widespread protests and violence. This video delves into France's immigration policies, the current situation, and the Merzouk protests, emphasizing the need to address societal challenges. During the 19th and 20th centuries, France experienced significant population shifts due to industrial growth and post-war labor demands, resulting in the arrival of European immigrants, workers from French colonies, and an emerging North African Muslim population. After World War II, immigration surged, bringing diverse populations from Europe, the Americas, Africa, and Asia, including Vietnamese migrants, Algerians, Pakistani and Japanese immigrants, as well as refugees from Eastern Europe and Latin America. Immigrants played crucial roles in various industries, but economic crises and shifts in immigration policies led to concentrated Muslim communities, high unemployment rates, and debates surrounding social services. As of 2019, opinions on migration were divided among French citizens, and employment rates for non-EU citizens varied across different regions of France. The Constitution of France prohibits the collection of data on race and ethnicity in the census. However, a 2020 study used mapping to demonstrate the prevalence of income segregation among Islamic migrants in Paris by identifying areas with a high concentration of Islamic institutions, particularly in lower-income suburban regions known as banlieues. These areas, historically referred to as religious ghettos, house a significant number of African and Islamic immigrants and are characterized by a higher density of Islamic institutions compared to wealthier urban areas, indicating a substantial population of Islamic immigrants. This segregation of cultures and identities allows these groups to flourish independently, as exemplified by the creation and subsequent dismantling of the Calais jungle, a homeless encampment near the French border that provided housing and services for asylum seekers during the 2015 European refugee crisis. While these areas can foster resilience and community support, they also pose challenges for full integration and can result in poverty traps, as residents report inadequate access to essential resources such as food, water, and health care. The strict immigration policy in France has contributed to the development of illegal immigration, with estimates ranging from 200,000 to 400,000 undocumented immigrants, sans-papiers, residing in the country in 2006, and an annual influx of 80,000 to 100,000 illegal entries. In response, the French government increased efforts to expel undocumented individuals, aiming to remove 35,000 individuals in 2012. Concerns over immigration also led to threats of France withdrawing from the Schengen Accord in 2009, 2011, and 2012. In recent years, attempts by undocumented immigrants to enter the UK through Calais have prompted joint efforts between the French and British authorities to secure the border and prevent unauthorized crossings. The 2005 French riots erupted in response to the deaths of two Muslim teenagers and the government's suggestion that they were thieves, leading to a state of emergency, 3 weeks of protests, and over 4,000 arrests. Subsequent incidents like the death of Adama Traoré in 2016 and police violence against Michel Zecler in 2020 fueled public outrage and contributed to a perception of police brutality in France, while allegations of racial profiling in traffic stops resulted in legal rulings against the French state, and a law allowing police to shoot at fleeing vehicles led to an increase in deaths in 2022. Some mayors in economically disadvantaged towns attribute the riots to deteriorating living conditions, with Catherine Arnaud of Chanteloup-les-Vignes stating that the population has become increasingly impoverished and lacking upward social mobility, while Philippe Riots of Grigny emphasizes that extreme poverty, exacerbated by COVID and inflation, has left even working individuals struggling to make ends meet, leading to a sense of exclusion among children witnessing their parents' hardships. As revealed by an opinion poll where only 29% of French people believe that immigrants in the past 3 decades have been well integrated. On June 27, 2023, the fatal shooting of Nahel Merzouk, a 17-year-old of Algerian descent, by the police in Nanterre, a suburb of Paris, sparked widespread protests and riots after a video contradicted initial police statements, leading to attacks on state symbols and significant damage, including burned vehicles, damaged buildings, and injured police officers. The incident ignited a national conversation on law enforcement and violence, with President Emmanuel Macron denouncing the killing as inexcusable, and resulted in the arrest of the involved police officer on suspicion of voluntary homicide by a person in authority. During an encounter with the police, a speeding Mercedes-Benz A-Class AMG with a Polish license plate evaded officers, resulting in a pursuit that ended when the car crashed after being forced to stop due to traffic congestion, leading to the death of the driver despite receiving first aid. A video contradicting the police's self-defense claim emerged, showing the officers on the driver's side of the vehicle when a shot was fired, sparking civil disturbances and protests in France following the killing of Nahel Merzouk. Violence erupted in several French cities, including Mantes-la-Jolie, Toulouse, and Lille, with clashes and incidents of arson reported, leading to the arrest of over 150 individuals, injuries to 24 officers, the torching of 40 cars, and prompting the deployment of 1,200 riot police and gendarmes initially, followed by an additional 2,000, as well as a plan to deploy 40,000 officers nationwide, in an effort to curb further unrest. Diverse individuals acknowledged the issue, offering a range of perspectives on this tragic event. The initial investigation against the accused police officer has revealed that the conditions for the legal use of the weapon were not met. The police officer is now under formal investigation on the charges of voluntary homicide. Nahel's mother, Mounia, told the France 5 channel, "I don't blame the police. I blame one person, the one who took the life of my son." She accused the officer of having seen an Arab fille, a little kid, and wanted to take his life. Merzouk's mother also called for a revolt for my son on TikTok. Merzouk's grandmother stated that she lacked of forgiveness for the police and government, stating, "They killed my grandson, now I don't care about anyone, they took my grandson from me, I will never forgive them in my life, never, never, never." She later has called for an end to the violent protests that have swept the country since his death. "They should not damage the schools, not break the buses, it was the moms who take the buses." French President Emmanuel Macron declared the incident inexcusable and unforgivable. It moved the entire nation. The BBC's Hugh Schofield attributed this to the effects of social media, allowing for the dissemination of such videos with ease, as well as fear stemming from the ensuing riots. Alliance Police Nationale, the largest French police union, criticized Macron. "He is condemning our colleagues before justice has had the chance to speak." Far-right politician Marine Le Pen, leader of the National Rally Party, dubbed Macron's statements, "It is excessive and irresponsible." The president is prepared to ignore constitutional principles in a bid to put out a potential fire. French football player Kylian Mbappé took to Twitter to denounce the incident as unacceptable and sent condolences to Merzouk's family. French actor and comedian Omar Sy sent condolences to the family. FC Barcelona footballer Jules Koundé criticized the coverage of the incident, stating that news media were capitalizing on it to distort the truth and find excuses to criminalize Merzouk. Left-wing politician and former La France Insoumise party leader Jean-Luc Mélenchon called for police reform. Mike Maignan, a footballer for Milan, stated on Twitter that it's always for the same people that being in the wrong leads to death. Le Parisien and BFM TV have been criticized for relaying the police's account without any caution in the early hours of the event, before changing their narrative in response to the video evidence and pressure from other media outlets. Eric Ciotti, president of the conservative political party the Republicans, expressed his support for the police, dubbing them defenders of collective security and denouncing the ensuing unrest as unjustified. The French National Assembly held a minute of silence to mourn. The Algerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs expressed its shock and consternation at the brutal and tragic disappearance of the young Nahel on June 29, adding that it trusted the French government to assume its duty of protection and security for Algerian nationals on French territory. The Moroccan press was critical of what it called Algerian interference in internal French domestic affairs and use of the crisis to political advantage. The Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights asked France to address systemic racism within its police forces, and called for the protests to remain peaceful. The recent protests following Nahel Merzouk's killing have become the third significant wave of civil unrest during President Macron's tenure, revealing underlying challenges in France's liberal republic. These protests, spreading across the country and reminiscent of the 2005 Banlieue riots, have shed light on deep-rooted issues related to police brutality, systemic discrimination, and marginalized communities, particularly those of North and West African origin. Amplified by social media, these protests have created a platform for far-right leader Marine Le Pen, who has capitalized on public support through her tough response, exposing the political polarization surrounding racial issues and contrasting with President Macron's more cautious approach. In response, Macron has engaged with mayors in an attempt to address these concerns and restore a sense of enduring Republican order. In response to the global rise of the Black Lives Matter movement following the killing of George Floyd in 2020, French leaders, including Macron, expressed concerns about the perceived influence of woke American values and their potential to undermine France's secular, republican principles and colorblind ideals, while critics argue that France's colorblindness rhetoric contradicts the unresolved racial tensions stemming from its colonial past. However, amidst recent riots, a different kind of American influence has emerged in France, characterized by an illiberal embrace of law and order politics and a contemptuous attitude towards marginalized minority communities, with a fundraiser supporting the officer who killed Merzouk receiving $1.5 million, significantly more contributions than a fund for the teenager's family, mirroring right-wing supported fundraisers seen in the United States. The rise of right-wing figures like Le Pen in France, along with leaders such as Viktor Orban and Matteo Salvini in Europe, has capitalized on the French riots as a reflection of perceived multiculturalism failures and as grounds for their anti-immigration positions, with Orban using the events to oppose a European migration pet and Salvini attributing the unrest to leniency towards Islamic radicalization and high crime areas. Despite facing numerous crises and mass protests during his tenure, including contentious battles over economic reforms such as pension reform, French President Emmanuel Macron is seen by analysts as presiding over a deeper unraveling in the country, with each crisis exposing societal tensions and conflicts over the respect for institutions and republican values, leaving segments of the population feeling disconnected from these principles, according to Bruno Cotra, a politics researcher with Sciences Po. The Nahel Merzouk protests necessitate a thoughtful resolution, which should be coupled with a reassessment of current immigration policies as the nation grapples with a crisis that has significant domestic and global impacts. In addressing these societal challenges, it's crucial that France's immigration policies are not developed in isolation. Instead, they should be part of a larger strategy that includes education, employment, social integration, and law enforcement reforms. Additionally, a broader societal conversation on diversity, inclusion, and multiculturalism could also contribute to making immigration a source of strength and enrichment for France.
Thank you for watching this video. If you found this enjoyable, kindly consider liking and subscribing.